You know, you go to a SIT meeting and everyone talks once a month and you're like, great, let's go try this, and then everyone goes off and it's not till another month till you're back together again in order to have that time. So for me, one of the most exciting things is having all the same grade level people in the same building at the same time, because that really does allow for grouping and differentiation in a way that we've never been able to do before. And it also allows for common language and common planning time among the grade level. We'll have a flexible intervention groups based on learners' needs. So the learners will be able to look at that data and then flex group out where the students need to go. So even if your student is in one Miss Smith's homeroom, she may be working with some of the other grade teachers also, or maybe working with one of the higher grade teachers at a different time too, depending on what your learners' needs are. We're adding a school-wide social and emotional curriculum that has a bullying component, which will promote common language and also be able to help students to be more proactive than reactive when things happen on the playground or in the classroom. And we are adding a part-time, it's one of our teachers who is taking on a role of restorative justice dean. And this teacher has 3 periods free, and she is free the 3 periods that are the lunch periods. 90% of our incidents where students disagree, shouldn't surprise you, is at lunch, during lunch recess. So she is free during that time and will be able to be hands-on right at that time to help kids to get past any kind of conflict that happens using our common language through our curriculum that is all school-wide. In addition, our kindergarten through 2nd grade will be using a Fountas and Pinnell benchmarking system through the whole 2nd grade, kindergarten through 2nd grade, which will be looking at decoding and problem solving and comprehension. We'll be using zones of regulation in kindergarten through 2nd grade. If you're not familiar with zones of regulation, this is where the kids learn some language about how they're feeling, and they're able to use words instead of using actions or hurting or hitting other people. So that's something that's super exciting that we're going to have common throughout the building. Our next generation science standards is in the 3rd year of their curriculum review cycle. So they have, not only are they piloting things, but they're actually out in every grade level now working on next generation science standards. And then, of course, the fluid groups of learners where kids are able to move around to get the skills that they need. In 3rd through 4th grade, we'll have some of those same things. You'll see the common classroom expectations and language that'll be going on, the next generation science standards, especially with our 4th grade, which will be experimenting with more hands-on experiments than they ever had before. 4th grade is also going to be piloting a new reading program called Lucy Huggins Units of Study Reading, which is a workshop reading model, which kind of goes along with our writing plan that, if you've heard us talk about before, is a really, really exciting and robust writing plan that we have in the district. And they're going to be piloting some departmentalizing. So not right away at the beginning of the year, but once we get in and the kids get all settled and stuff, we're going to have a 4th grade teacher that's going to specialize in math and a 4th grade teacher specializing in science, so that we have the kids moving around during the day. So when they transition over to 5th grade, where they're departmentalized all day, they'll have some taste of that this year, so it'll be an easier transition for them. The final thing I want to mention to you is our new sensory room that is being built. It's not being built, I'm sorry. That is being put together with the moving. So this is for students that have high sensory needs. If students are coming in with sensory needs, we have to find ways to help them to calm their bodies. And research shows that if students are in the right mindset to get their needs met, that they'll be ready to learn. So we have put in some materials in a room, and basically it's just an empty room. You know, there's nothing special in the room, but we put materials in the room in order to allow students to have a safe zone to go into to calm down. Typically what we've had to do in the past is kids might work on something in the hallway, or kids might take a walk, and there weren't just a lot of options. You know, they just didn't have many things that they can do to relieve stress or to get feedback to their joints, so that students know. Students that have sensory issues don't know exactly where their body is in space, so this allows them to get some activities that will allow them to have some calming movements. For example, there's a large swing that goes in there for students that like to have calming movements that just gently goes back and forth. There are some full body tactile stimulation things. Also works on hand-eye coordination and balance. And if you increase time on task, and it decreases negative behaviors. So that's probably the most exciting thing that we have going on, although we have a lot of great things happening here at Lee School next year. And I ended with our buddy bench, because I think this is a lovely symbol of Lee School and where our future is, and our social curriculum that we're looking at, and just everyone having common language and working together. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, just 2 questions. With the sensory room, is that one specific special ed teacher that's going to be in the room all day, or is that somebody else bringing them in?
That's a good question. No, that's somebody else bringing them in. The teacher who is working with the students would be bringing them in, perhaps an aide, depending on who's working with the student at the time. But there is not a teacher that's just sitting in that room all day. Not at all.
All right, and then my second question, coming out of some previous years with the onslaught of cyberbullying and extending to both in and outside of school, just where we have this position coming in of the restorative justice dean, can you give us a brief explanation of what the restorative justice mindset is and what's going to be happening with that?
Sure. So the restorative justice mindset is that you bring kids back to the whole, and you look at why things happened, and you help them to process through the decisions that they made. So instead of it being, you did this, and so you get this consequence because you did this, it's why did this happen, and what can we do to help bring you back to a better place in your thinking. So the restorative justice dean would be able to sit down with kids, and you may have seen this year, your child come home with like think sheets. Think sheets are sheets where they sit down and think about what happened, why did you take this step, and what could you have done to maybe prevent that next time. So there are more conversations with kids that help them to process through things that happen, because conflict happens, and conflict happens with adults. It happens. But our job is to teach kids how to deal with that in school and in life, because we want them to be productive adults when they come out of school. So that's the concept of restorative justice. Last year we had 2 speakers come in and presented an amazing workshop. I think there were a couple of board members that were there about restorative justice. Things that you don't think about.
Law.
Things that you say together. There is a law in that. Thank you for reminding me that, Senate Bill 100. But there are things that we say to kids that we don't think about that they interpret differently, and so it's a different kind of mindset. So that person would spend time with kids in the lunchroom, or pull kids out if they need to come out, and work on circles of expectations, think sheets, or just, hey, how could you handle this situation better? Anything like that. Obviously, work very closely with me on that too. Those are good questions.
I have a question about the structured play that you talked about. Is that something that'll happen like once a week, or is that something that's, how often does that happen?
It's daily, and actually we started it last year.
Okay.
We started last year in both schools, in K2, so now we'll extend it out to 3 and 4 this year. And it is daily, and the teacher goes outside with the students 10 minutes, weather permitting, obviously. Actually, there's a couple of really nice things that are online now, like a Go Noodle and different activities that allow you to be able to do a lot more stuff in the classroom now, too.
And then the other question I had about the sensory room, is that something that is also going to be, how are the kids at Giles going to be able to, how are we providing that service to them as well, for the upper grade kids?
Sure, I think it's something that we have to look to the future, because we don't have students that are in need of it at Giles at this moment, but it is something we need to look to for the future.
Oh, thank you. Sure.
Any other questions?
We always look at our student needs.
Absolutely.
I had a question about the early childhood. So there's 16 in that classroom, and you said that we're going to have to hire a nurse.
Correct.
Is that going to be a nurse specifically for that class due to an IEP, or will that be a nurse that the whole school will be able to utilize?
That's good. That is just a nurse specifically to that student due to an IEP. That student's needs are very high, that he needs to have a nurse with him all day in school. And our nurse, if you've ever been in the nurse's office, always has a rotating group of people. And what's really exciting about that, though, is we would have in the past probably outsourced that child to another school, and we don't have to. There's absolutely no reason cognitively why he shouldn't be in our school. Just because he has a physical need to have a nurse, which he would have had to have if he was at another school.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, just one more follow-up question. Of the 16 children we have enrolled, how many are actually on North School District 80, and how many are outside?
We have 4 outside students right now.
Thank you. Mike, you had a question?
And this all follows in with our planning of our budget,
Correct.
working
Yes.
for it,
Of course.
and meeting the needs of the children in our district.
I go back to our budget document, I don't know, 10 times a day.
Well, maybe I'm, yeah, same thing, same,
I
but
don't
we're
think
meeting
I'm
the
being
needs, we're meeting the needs of our kids in the district here.
Yes.
Exactly.
I mean, our early
Instead of
childhood program is a
outsourcing,
co-op room.
right.
But that's why we have children from another district in that room.
You've heard me say it over and over. District 80 provides the greatest standard of care when it comes to matching the values of this community. No one can do it better. No one can do it better. No one in LASIK, no one out of state. We provide the best that matches our values. And so we made a choice that the young person should stay here because there's no reason to send them somewhere else where it's going to cost us more money and we have zero control over the performance of that child.
And what's a rough number of what it would cost us if we put that student in another school?
Well, on average, when it comes to the expense per pupil, if we outplace them, the average amount per student is $44,000. If we place them in the LASIK program, the only one that's left is Manheim. On average, it's about $45,000 per student. I don't know if that's an aide. I don't know if that's a teacher. Do you know what the beginning salary is for our teachers? $46,000. That's at or near the cost of one teacher. And the person who has the greatest effect and impact on a student is a teacher. Research is compelling, it backs it up, and we are supporting it. So what you see here are decisions, Mike, like you stated, that are best for our kids, and that is what you see here, and that is the vision that Michelle is basically showing, or basically presenting here today, so that you understand and also the community understands.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Great. Thank you, Michelle.
Great job. Thank you.
Dr. Nally, you have any other?
Yeah, one more piece of information. The administration, the 2 principals and myself, we met with the chief of police. I wanted to say it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we talked about some things that we believe are important for the safety and security of North School District 80. And I talked about this at the last meeting. I'm going to follow up. If the board doesn't mind, I'm going to follow up and I'll present a letter so that it's very clear on what the conversation is that we had and what are some of the expectations that we're going to expect for the upcoming year. So I just want to make sure I told the board here tonight and reiterated that. I hope to have a draft by the end of the week and send it out from the following week before the school year starts. So thank you.
Thank you. Go right to board committees. First one is board policy development. We will have a meeting tomorrow to go over board policies. It will be at 6 o'clock in this room. Buildings and grounds.